Paramount's not interested either. And honestly, can you really blame them? The media fantasy Meghan and Harry once had is unraveling way faster than anyone could have predicted. Remember the moment they stepped back from the royal family and the whole world was like, wow, they're actually doing it. They had global attention, a wave of sympathy, and a golden opportunity to carve out something big on their own terms. But now, that excitement has completely fizzled out. Netflix has practically vanished from the picture. No formal goodbye, no announcement, just total radio silence. And in Hollywood, that kind of silence, it speaks louder than any official statement ever could. When their Netflix deal first hit the headlines, it felt like the launch of a new media powerhouse. $100 million. That's not play money. That's you better deliver money. People expected bold content, impactful documentaries, inspiring shows, something that would reframe their public image and prove they were more than just royal escapees. But the momentum didn't last. Their docuseries didn't stick. The Invictus Games content underperformed. And Netflix? They were watching every metric behind the scenes closely. It wasn't just about one or two flops. Behind the scenes, whispers started to spread. Insiders claimed Archewell, Meghan and Harry's production company, was in chaos. Poor communication. No clear creative vision. Staff coming in and out like a revolving door. The behind-the-scenes reality didn't quite match the polished, curated image they were presenting to the public. And in the streaming world, appearances might matter, but consistency is what truly counts. Netflix had to tighten its belt across the board, cutting anything seen as high risk with low reward. Unfortunately, the Sussexes ended up on that list. Then there's the Spotify disaster. Their big podcast deal fell apart right in front of everyone. Archetypes was meant to be Meghan's triumphant return, her chance to craft a new voice away from royal headlines. Instead, it vanished after just one season. Spotify execs didn't sugarcoat it. They flat out said the show didn't deliver. One misstep is forgivable. But two major ones? That starts to look like a trend. And when both failures are tied to the same brand, people stop blaming the platforms and start questioning the people behind the projects. Now they're reportedly eyeing a deal with Paramount Plus. But here's the truth. Paramount isn't exactly begging for content. They've seen the headlines. They know what they'd be investing in. Two public figures with shaky credibility, sky-high expectations, and a fan base that's no longer as loyal as it once was. It's not just about being famous anymore. It's about being reliable. Can Meghan and Harry actually produce something that lasts? The frustrating part? They started out ahead. When they left the royal family, they had something most celebrities dream of: complete control over their narrative. But somewhere along the way, they lost that grip. The messaging got confusing. The content felt hollow, the audience noticed, and Hollywood took note. You can't build a media legacy on hype alone. Eventually, the work has to back it up. And right now, there's more noise than substance. Reports say Meghan is now pitching lifestyle content again. Maybe an unscripted show, maybe another shot at podcasting. But let's be real. In an industry that moves fast and feeds on momentum, pitching from a position of desperation is a tough game. Network executives know the Netflix chapter didn't just end, it slammed shut. Quietly, but decisively. And with reports that Netflix has canceled season 2 of their docuseries without so much as a public statement, the message couldn't be more clear. The royal brand isn't untouchable, it's vulnerable, and right now it's visibly cracking. Netflix didn't just part ways, they wiped the Sussexes from their slate like they were never there. And, the harshest part, they did it without saying a word. No official goodbye, no diplomatic farewell, not even a polite thank you. Just quiet confirmation behind closed doors that there would be no second season. That's not a delay. That's the end of the road. When your own platform refuses to continue telling your personal story, that's not just a rejection. That's a blow to your entire brand. For a duo that's built everything around controlling their image, this kind of silent dismissal cuts especially deep. Meghan, in particular, has always been known for managing her public persona with almost surgical precision. Every public appearance, every project rollout, every interview, carefully timed and perfectly curated. But there's no way to reframe it. Because this time, the silence is the headline. It speaks louder than any tabloid or think piece ever could. And for someone who spent years trying to control the narrative, this quiet breakup is the ultimate loss of control. The most damaging part? It's not just about one project falling through, it's what this signals to the rest of the industry. This isn't just a canceled season. It's a warning flag to future collaborators, investors, and platforms. The buzz is gone. There was a time when just having Meghan and Harry attached to a project meant instant media attention. Now, producers see red flags, not green lights. The two biggest platforms in the streaming world, Netflix and Spotify, didn't just walk away by chance. That's not random. That's a trajectory. And now, with whispers of a potential deal with Paramount Plus, it's clear the Sussexes are still trying. But the landscape has shifted. Paramount isn't approaching them as breakout stars. They're calculating risk, weighing whether the controversy is worth the attention. And honestly, the odds aren't in their favor. Insiders say Meghan is already back in pitch meetings, floating ideas for lifestyle shows, what's unscripted content, influencer-style material that feels familiar, maybe too familiar. But things aren't the same anymore. The market is flooded. Audiences are harder to win over. Trust is harder to earn. People have been sold authenticity too many times, and what they got instead often felt like PR with a filter. Worse yet, the couple's current strategy, staying quiet and hoping the storm passes, isn't working. Because in Hollywood, when you disappear after a string of flops, people don't assume you're regrouping. They assume you're sinking. Every silence becomes a new headline. Every former partner's distance starts to look like rejection, and every unaddressed rumor starts to sound like truth. Losing control of the narrative in this town? That's one of the hardest things to come back from. Behind closed doors, the urgency is real. Harry and Meghan know they're running out of time to prove their so-called media empire is more than just a well-funded idea that never quite landed. And they know that the longer they sit on the sidelines, the harder it will be to get back in the game. And now, with no major deals lined up and a trail of lackluster projects behind them, Meghan and Harry are teetering on the edge of becoming a Hollywood cautionary tale. Sure, the rumors haven't stopped. They never do. There's always chatter about new content, fresh partnerships, or maybe even a total rebrand. But the era of automatic headlines and blind industry trust? That chapter is over. Streaming platforms want results, not just recognizable names. And unless the Sussexes can pull off a major turnaround soon, they'll find that every meeting feels just a little more distant, a little more skeptical than the last. Paramount Plus might be the last major player still even remotely interested. But that door? It's barely hanging on. The executives over there aren't clueless. They've read the reports. They've seen the viewership numbers. They know exactly how this story has been playing out. Two of the world's biggest platforms gave Meghan and Harry massive opportunities, and both ended not with a splash, but with silence and disappointment. So if Paramount is even considering a deal, it's likely with extreme hesitation, and one eye already on the exit. Because now, the stakes aren't just high, they're existential. This isn't just about whether a show gets made or a podcast finds an audience. It's about whether anyone in the industry still believes in the Sussexes as a brand at all. The narrative has flipped, completely. Once hailed as bold disruptors breaking free from royal constraints, Meghan and Harry are now being described by insiders as erratic, inconsistent, and increasingly fixated on controlling the narrative rather than shaping it. But the media landscape has changed. It doesn't crave polish anymore, it craves authenticity. And the Sussexes haven't delivered either. Their projects feel shallow, the storytelling feels filtered. There's always this sense that image comes first, and everything else follows. Everything is beautifully packaged, but emotionally disconnected. And in an industry that runs on real connection, that disconnect is a deal breaker. Even behind the scenes, the silence is growing louder. Former allies have gone quiet. Public defenders are vanishing. The people who once believed they were building a purpose-driven empire are now whispering doubts, unsure what the purpose even is anymore. The brand says one thing, the output says something else entirely, and audiences have picked up on the mismatch. They're not feeling inspired, they're feeling distant. Word is, Meghan is considering a solo rebrand, a return to the carefully curated influencer space that built her original audience before royal life. Maybe a podcast, maybe a wellness brand, maybe a lifestyle series. But rebuilding trust, especially after several very public missteps, is no easy task. And today's audiences, they're not naive. They recognize the pattern, and with each stumble, they become less forgiving. As for Harry, his challenge is even tougher. Without a distinct voice or media identity outside of his royal roots, he's slowly fading into the background. His name still grabs attention, sure, but it no longer guarantees relevance. He hasn't carved out a niche. He hasn't defined a message that stands on its own. Unless he finds a purpose beyond the palace, a voice that connects on its own merit, his role risks being reduced to a footnote in his own story. There's still potential in the Sussex brand, but only if it's rebuilt from scratch. That means dropping the polish. That means showing people something honest, something raw, something real. Because right now, all the world sees is two celebrities clinging to a media empire that never quite materialized. And the most heartbreaking part? They had the moment. The public was with them. They had the empathy, the attention, the momentum. They could have written a powerful new chapter, one of growth, authenticity, and reinvention. Instead, they tried to build a media dynasty on hype and image, without the substance to sustain it. And in Hollywood, surface only lasts so long. With Netflix out, Spotify done, and Paramount barely keeping the door open, they're down to their last shot. If the next project flops, or worse, never gets made, it could mark the end of their credibility as media creators. So now, the question isn't if they'll recover, it's whether they still know how. Because this isn't just a misstep. It's the slow collapse of a crown they tried to craft in California. And right now, it's slipping right through their hands.